Good afternoon, parents. Welcome once again to our mobile device management workshop. I'm Madam Faiza here. Today with me, I have a team of teachers and also ICT people who will be with me to answer the questions. Yeah. All right. Before I start, let me go through some housekeeping matters. All right. Just to let everyone know that today we'll be recording the session and will be uploaded on the school YouTube site. Please do give us some days for us to be able to record and also to upload it to the YouTube site. If you have any questions, please do type in your questions under the Q&A tab. And of course, at the end of today's session, we're also going to have a Q&A session. Yeah, parents. Just to share with you, this is the contact person that you may go to in case you have any matters or any concerns with regards to iPad matters or learning device matters. Madam Faiza, the one that you have met me during our parents engagement session. You said Madam Masni, she's the IC of this program. You have Madam Christy Chan, who's the HOD for ICT, and Madam Shamila Leos, who is actually in charge of MDM in our school. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce Mr. David Tan, who's going to share with us more about MDM. And later, you may want to ask him more questions if you have. So, yeah, he's also the director of Singapore MDM Private Limited. Mr. David Tan, I hand over the time to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right. Good afternoon, parents. Let me just share my screen. So for today's workshop, I've prepared a few slides, and then we'll go into a live demo to show you how to set up the parental ScreenGuide app to manage on the child's device. Right. Give me a moment while I share my screen. Okay. Right. I hope everyone can see my screen. Again, thanks for joining us in today's workshop on the mobile device management, or MDM for short. Parents, you may be wondering what is a mobile device management and why do we need to know about this MDM? And most importantly, how will the MDM help me as a parent and help my child when he or she is using a learning device, right? So what is an MDM, right? As the name suggests, mobile device management is used to do exactly that, right? To manage devices. To be more specific, an MDM is used to manage devices remotely over the internet, either in school or at home, in Singapore or outside of Singapore, so long as the device has an internet connection. And here are some of the device settings that an MDM may configure. Right, so the MDM is a very powerful tool. It allows the school as well as parents to restrict certain settings on the iPad remotely to allow the school to have certain controls during school hours, and outside of school hours, parents can then take over and be able to manage the iPads when the students are using it unsupervised. Later on, I will go into some of the features of the ScreenGuide parental app and to lead you through the process of setting up the ScreenGuide app to link it with your child's device. Next, I want to touch on very quickly about student privacy. So if you are wondering, if there's an MDM that is remotely accessing or managing the iPad, will that protect the child's privacy, right? Suffice to say, Apple has done a very good job here. They are very pro-privacy, and the way that the MDM is designed, it just allows the MDM administrators to view any user information. And what is considered user information? Photos, emails, messages are all user data. The MDM administrator is not able to access any of the photos and emails or messages on the student iPads. We are also not able to see usage patterns. So we're not able to see how often the student is using a particular app, either in school or outside of school. And this is really just to protect user privacy, as well as web browsing history. We're not able to remotely view or track the browsing history for the child. Obviously, as a parent, you may be able to go to the browser history directly on the iPad to view it. Teacher may also view the browser history directly while the child or student is in school. And lastly, there is no ability for the MDM to remotely enable, turn on the camera to spy on the student, so to speak. So all these things are prevented um, by Apple uh, to allow the MDM administrator to access, right? What can the MDM then see, right? We are able to see mostly hardware information. We can see the iPad model. We can see how much storage it has, how much storage has been used. We may see its Wi-Fi MAC address, right? So in terms of troubleshooting in school network, we're able to extract the Wi-Fi MAC address of the iPad remotely, right? We're able to see OS versions. We can see a list of apps that may be installed on the iPad, but we cannot see into the app. So for example, you have Microsoft Word installed on the iPad. We will be able to see the Word app is installed, but we're not able to see the documents and the files inside Microsoft Word. We can also see its location, but only in specific instances, right? In most cases, the MDM is not able to see its location for privacy reasons. So the MDM administrator is not able to track the student um, as the student is carrying the iPad to and from school or at home. But in the unlikely event that the iPad is misplaced or lost, the MDM is able to trigger a loss mode. And at that point, and only during that time, we're able to see its location in order to try to recover the iPad by looking at its location, right? So in terms of privacy, there's a lot of things that the MDM cannot see, and we're able to see certain information only for managing the iPad in terms of the functionality and settings remotely, right? The MDM that is going to be installed will be installed on the iPad permanently, 24/7. But only during school hours will we enforce certain controls, right? This is so that we um, enforce or allow the students only access to specific school use apps. Any of the personal apps that you may install by yourselves, like certain games or video streaming, YouTube, etc., they will be blocked during school hours. So the students are more focused in class and not distracted by games or social media apps. And these school hours are defined to be Monday to Friday from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. In case of public holidays or during the school term breaks, controls will also be released so that personal apps can appear within these hours. Outside of the school hours after 4 p.m., the MAN controls will be released or relaxed. It is still installed on the iPad, but there will be no controls or we will not enforce any of the apps. So you may be able to install and view your personal apps for gaming, for entertainment, video, and so forth, right? Um, and the purpose of today's workshop is to allow parents to say, okay, how can I then control the usage of the iPads uh, outside of school hours after 4 p.m. and into the next morning 7 a.m., right? Because you certainly want to have some control, especially if it's a dual income family and both parents are working and the students are at home unsupervised or with a helper or a grandparent. Then as a parent, you may want to use this to say, okay, I want to prevent my child from using the iPad for gaming or for entertainment before he or she has completed their homework. So you're able to use this parental app to remotely control the iPad, right? This also builds a community between the school and parents. So while during school hours, the school will enforce and control a lot of the settings, after 4 p.m., then that power is transferred to the parents, and parents, you can then take over to decide what is controlled or what is restricted or not restricted, because every family works quite differently, right? You may want to start off with fairly strict controls, and over time, slowly relax it as the child is more familiar or exhibits more responsibility in using the device. You may choose to then reduce the restrictions that is on the iPad. Right. The parental control app is available for iPhone users as an app. So you can look for this ScreenGuide parental control app. It's got an image of a kangaroo. So simply search for that and install it as a free app. You don't have to pay for it. For Android users, if you are a Samsung Android user, there is no Android app for it, but you can use the browser to access the same interface. Right, the controls and management are mostly the same, or exactly they're exactly the same. It's just that the on the iPhone they have wrapped it into an app. For Android, you will have to use a browser to log in, right? It is included with the MDM subscription, so there's no need for you to pay anything. All the MDM controls will be enforced by the school side. You're just using a sort of a complementary supporting app to control the iPad outside of school hours. Right? It's easy to set up. It's got powerful features, which we'll go into a bit later. Right. So here are some of the things the app is able to do. We will go through not all of them, but a few of the more useful ones, important ones, so that you have an idea of how to manage the student device remotely. Then over time, you can explore some of the other more powerful features that's available within the app, right? So just very quickly, there is a timeout where it allows the parent to simply block the iPad from usage. So let's say if you do not want your child to be using the iPad at any time, you can disable the iPad so that it is locked to a particular app, to a particular screen, and your child is not able to then access any other apps outside of that, right? You may also use this to restrict certain apps. So if the child wants to use the iPad for homework and they only need a few apps, you can restrict that to a few specific apps. You can lock it to a particular app if you want to. You can also use this to block certain websites. So we can use this to block Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.com. Again, depending on the family policies. Some parents do not want the child to access social media or any other undesirable websites. But other parents may choose to say, okay, I'm fine with them, accessing Facebook or social media or video streaming websites. So you have, as a parent, you have total control of what is allowed and what is not allowed, simply by just enforcing the web filters on the device. Right. You can use the parental app to see what the child has installed. So if you do allow your child autonomy to install, if they have an Apple ID, and then you give them the autonomy to install apps that they want to use, you can also use this to remotely check what are the apps they have installed without having to physically take hold of the iPad. You can see what is installed on it, and then you can decide whether there's an app that you want to allow them to use or not, right? The last item there is the ability to clear device passcode. So for most students, you may want to have a device passcode to secure the iPad, so that other students or other users will not be able to look at the information on the iPad. But sometimes the student may forget the passcode they have, set. So it's typically it's very difficult to reset or impossible to reset. You will have to erase the iPad. But with this MDM tool, as a parent, you may use this to clear the device passcode to unlock it, so that you can recover the iPad and have it back into use, right? So we'll go into a live demo and show you how to do this. So you may, if you have already downloaded the ScreenGuide app, you may follow along. For Android parents, you may go to this website, screenguide.mosyle.com, to access the same interface, right? So let me just share my screen. I've got two devices here. Let me just share uh, the iPad and the parent device onto the screen. Okay, so it's coming up. So as you do this, you will need to have access to both your own smartphone as well as the student device. All right. So on the left, that would be the parent's phone, and on the right would be the child's iPad. All right, so this is the typical iPad with some apps that's installed on it, right? So to get started on the parent side, you would install the ScreenGuide app. This is the ScreenGuide app, right? The Kangaroo, or if you go to the website, it will be screenguide.mosyle, mosyle.com, right? Mosyle.com, screenguide.mosyle.com, and then you will see a similar interface like this, where you can then create an account to sign up. All right, you will have to use your personal email. I do suggest to use a personal email rather than a work email, because you may change your job at some point. But if you use a Gmail or Hotmail or personal account, then you can ensure that this account stays with you even if you do change jobs, right? So here I've already created an account, so I won't start that email sign up process. But if for you, you would have to create simply by entering a personal email and signing up. It's a fairly straightforward process, right? So since I already have an account, I will just tap on the bottom that says I already have an account. I will just want to log in, right? And I will log in with the account that I have created for this session. Once you log in, the first interface you see here will be, say, welcome, and then you have to either uh, create a family or join a family, right? So here we will start, because it's brand new, we will start to create a family. Join family is a later stage. So let's say parent one has already created a family and linked the device, and you want to have another guardian or spouse to also control, so the second parent can create their own account, and instead of creating a new family, they just say join the family and join to the existing family, so they can both look at the same iPad and control the iPad at the same time, right? So here we'll start with create a family. You can give it a name. I'll just stick with the default. Say create family, and then here it is. Then you have to start to link to the child, right? So follow the prompts. I will go through each of these page relatively slowly so that you have an idea of the process, right? So tap on add child, right? You can give a name, right? So I have a child. I'm gonna give it my girl's name, Emily, right? Birthday is optional. You don't really have to do that. So just leave that as empty. Add child, right? Okay, let it run. So what kind of device are you adding? So there's only one option here. I'm adding a school managed device. All right, tap on it. Right. So at this point, you need to pause, and then you need to go over to the iPad, right? So it says on the school managed device, which is the iPad, you will then have to do the following on the student's device, right? So before you do this on the student's device, make sure that you have got this app, right? Mosyle School, right? Mosyle School is already installed. If you see that, that means this iPad is already under the MDM, right? If you do not see this app, and then you will not be able to do the link because the iPad is not under the school control as yet, right? So make sure you see Mosyle School before you start the next part, right? So to start the next part, it says here open Safari or any browser, right? And then go to this web page, type in screen.guide/connect, right? Simply that, screen.guide/connect, hit go, and it will prompt to open up the Mosyle School app, right? Which is why I say that you need to be managed, because it will try to open up the Mosyle School app, right? If you don't have that, then you will not able to proceed, right? So here it says enter your email, which is the parent's email, right? Not the student's account or the icon account. It is your parent email that I've just entered on my smartphone, right? So I enter my account. and then the password that I have set and hit login. Right, whoops, did I do a typo? Okay, let me do that again.
Hi, sorry, David. Faiza
Yes.
here. I
Mm-hmm.
think maybe need to slow down a bit because I think there are some parents who are trying to find the app in their own phone because I think some parents are a bit confused with to install in their child's iPad. Actually, it's not in the child's iPad. What we are doing now is you need to use your own device that you want to use to control your child's iPad. Yeah,
Correct,
because
correct.
you are trying to answer some questions because we can see that some parents are trying to find the app. So maybe you
Okay,
want to
okay.
hold on for a
Yeah,
while.
all right.
Yeah, so we give
Sure.
time for parents who are now doing the downloading of the app.
Can.
Yeah,
All
can.
right.
Thank you so much, David. Yeah.
So apologize. I wasn't looking at the
It's okay. It's okay.
chat. Okay.
We are
Um.
here. My team is
So.
trying to answer some of the questions. Yeah.
mm,
Okay. Can.
Yeah, so that's entirely correct. So you do not install this on the student device, right? This needs to be installed on the smartphone, on the parent's smartphone, because the purpose is for you to use the ScreenGuide parental app to control the student iPad while the student or your child is not with you physically, right? So you don't install this on the ScreenGuide because you cannot own self manage own self, right? You don't let the child manage themselves. You will use this app to manage your child's device, right? So this needs to be installed on your phone, be it an iPhone or an Android phone. If you're at work, you can also use the browser, right? On the Android device is the browser, so you can use a computer. You can go to the browser and do the same thing, right? So if I go, if we go to the browser, right? Uh, so let me just close and open another one, right? So screen right mosyle.com, right? Not the connect, right? So this is the interface that you will see, right? This is exactly what you will see if you're on a computer or if you're on the browser on the Android device, right? Um, so same thing, you enter in your account. So while we're waiting for parents to get the app, I'll just log in as well. This is on the iPad, but you don't do this on the iPad, right? We don't let the students manage themselves. You just imagine that I'm doing this on another computer, another iPad, or on an Android phone. Um, it is the same interface from the browser as compared to the parental device, right? So this is the interface. We've not done the linking yet, so we are still at that stage where we are not there. We are holding on at this passcode stage, right? So on the student device, when you try to link after you've entered your email and password, you will need to enter the school passcode, right? So the school passcode, right? This is a passcode you'll be using later, 397B7, right? This is for the school Admiralty Primary School's code, 397B7 is the code that you'll be using later, right? To link at this page, right? Because I'm not under the school, I won't be using that code. I will use my code. So let me just key in my code and complete the link. I will pause after this so that parents can catch up, right? Right. So after entering the code, the school code, again the school code. Let me put this up again. Right. The school code is 397B7. We enter in the school code at that screen, and once it's entered, you will see that the device is linked, right? And tap on close, right? Then get out from here for now, right? Okay, so maybe I'll continue, I'll go slow. Then on the parent device, once I have done that, If I tap on the arrow key to the right, actually it's got all the steps. So you can read through that step if you want, enter the code, etc. So I've done all that. And once you get to the last page, simply tap on close and then come back to the screen, right? So after the link is successful, I will see my child, Emily, and I'll see that her iPad, Emily, iPad is now listed under her as one of the device, right? If coming back onto the Safari site, right? For Android parent, or if you're using a computer, similarly, if I refresh this page, right, I'll see that it has the same information, Emily with the iPad and the controls next to it, right? So if you are using the phone, iPhone, you can use the app. If you're using Android, you can use the browser on the Android phone, or you can use a computer, be it a PC or a Mac. You can also just go to screenguide.mosyle.com to access the same interface, right? So now the device is linked, right? So I'm going to use the parent app to show some of the features on how you can control the child device, right? I'll keep going if that's okay, right? The session will be recorded. I think it will be uh, published a bit later. So if you're not able to follow along, you can view the video again at a later stage and then follow along at that time, right? But I'll try to go as slowly so that parents may be able to follow along, right? So if I can get your attention to the left, so coming back to the parent side, so I'm assuming that this iPad is not directly in front of me, it's actually with my child, and I'm not, I'm at work and my child is at home. I can use this interface to then go in and see the features of the ScreenGuide app, right? So there are the timeout, screen time restrictions, and so forth. So I'll just go through some of this so that you can sort of see how it works, right? Very importantly, the top part where it says alerts and pending. So the MDM works over the internet, right? It's not instantaneous. So sometimes depending on network, there may be some lag, right? So it's always a good idea, and this is my tip for you as a parent, is to go into alerts and pending and just to check that your commands have been sent out successfully, right? If you see all looks perfect, that means your commands have successfully gone out. If you see it is still pending there, then it has not sent out. So you may want to check back in later, or you can try to force the command again, right? So perhaps we can do, I'll show you how it works, right? So the first one, I'll show you timeout, right? So timeout, as it says here, is to disable the device usage for some time, right? So here you can say, I want to block the device usage for duration. There's a scroll down here, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and so forth, or until you disable it, right? Limited to, maximum of 24 hours. Right. So for the purpose of this demo, I'll just keep it to 15 minutes, right? So I just select 15 minutes and I just tap on click to block, right? That's all you need to do. Click to block, it'll be blocked for 15 minutes. So if I go back to the previous screen and I go into alerts and pending, right? Go into pending, I can see that this command is pending to go out, right? And to refresh this, I would then just swipe down in from the middle of the phone to force a refresh, okay? As you can see here, the iPad has just been um, sent into this screen that says timeout command has been applied, and you've got 40 minutes remaining, right? So while it is under the timeout mode, they will not be able to exit this screen. So you don't see it, but I'm trying to press the home button to get out from this screen, and I'm not able to exit this screen. So effectively, the iPad is disabled. The child cannot do anything to it. There's no browser, there's no games, and nothing. There's nothing you can do on the iPad, right? So simply, the timeout function is simply to say you cannot use the device. So I'm just blocking it, and as a child, you cannot do anything to it. Right. So in an example scenario, it's like, okay, I want to make sure that my child is not using iPad for whatever activity, or then send a command to say disable it. And once it's disabled, they will not be able to use it. They will do, paper and pen work, do other things, do household chores, or until I come home or when I'm ready to release control, then I will release the timeout, right? So let me just click to unblock to disable it, right? And coming back to the pending, just make sure that refresh it, right? If the command doesn't go out timely, right, you can press the big red button at the bottom to say push pending command, and then you can refresh again. And okay, so it's all gone out. And on the iPad side, now if I press on home button, right, it can exit. So now the iPad is back to normal mode, right? So timeout basically is the ability to disable the iPad usage for a certain period of time, right? So you can either block by duration, and then next to it, if you tap on schedule, you can also add a schedule to say, I want the MDM to send out a recurring schedule to block the device. So let's say I do not want my child to be using the iPad between the hours of, uh, let's say, 6 to 7 p.m., right? Because it's going to be dinner time. So dinner time, can I use the iPad? I give it a name, dinner time. And every day I need to eat, right? So I can say every day, dinner time between 6 to 7, right? So now I've just set a recurring schedule every day, Monday to Sunday, between the hours of 6 to 7. The timeout command will be sent out to disable the iPad. So you launch into that screen and the child will not be able to exit that screen, effectively disabling the usage of the iPad, right? And then to say, okay, I'm going on holiday and all that, I say, okay, I will not want to enforce this. Then you can just tap on that toggle, say disable this schedule, right? So you don't need to delete it. You can just toggle it off so that it will not run at the next 6 p.m., right? So that is timeout. I'll just refresh this to make sure that whatever commands and schedules that is pending has been cleared out, right? So always come to the pending to just make sure that your commands has been sent out when you're using this app. So the next one, maybe I'll skip the screen time for now. Let's go into restrictions, right? So under restrictions, you can enable or disable certain things, right? So for whatever reason, again, depending on family policy, you may want to block the child from using the iPad for FaceTime or iMessage, or for whatever reason, you do not want the child to be using the camera app, you can use this to block, right? So most of these are the Apple um, native controls, such that, so for example, let's say if I just want to hide Safari, so if I tap on this hide Safari, and then the command goes out. So if you give your attention to the iPad on the right side, the Safari browser at the bottom should disappear at some time, at some point. I'm just so it's gone. So basically, so if you say, okay, I allow you to use the iPad, but I do not want you to be using a browser and surf the internet, because it's hard to supervise them when they have access to all of internet. I can say just disable Safari, and then the Safari app will be hidden. It is still there. You can't really delete it, but it's hidden, right? So you can say hide Safari if you do not want them to use it, right? So let me unhide it. Other things you can do is you can block the camera, you can block them from changing Apple ID. You can block changes to passcode, right? Early on, we did mention that it is recommended that you um, uh, install put a passcode onto the device, right? Such that they protect the device. But if they change the passcode, they tend to forget it. So if we agree on a passcode, then you can say, I want to block changes to a passcode. So once you have set a passcode, they will not be able to change the passcode because we have a code restriction preventing them from making changes to the passcode. If you do not want them to install any app from the App Store, you can also say, I do not want you to have access to the App Store I disable you from installing any games or other apps without parental consent. So I can also use this to sort of control that, right? So restrictions, you're able to do some of these things. Mostly these are all the Apple native controls that's under restrictions, right? So the next one is quite interesting. This allows you to restrict apps, right? The first one is you can use this to say, I want to block the child from certain apps. So if let's say, Angry Bird, for whatever reason, I do not want my child to be using Angry Bird, I can add it to the restricted app. So even if they do manage to install Angry Birds, it will be prevented from launching. It'll be blocked, right? Actually, correction. So the first one is to actually delete it, right? So let's see. Let's say I've got IB's Paint, right? Let's say where's IB's Paint? So let's say the child has IB's Paint is here, right? So IB's Paint is down here. So this is IB's Paint. Um, so let's say the child has installed IB's Paint without my authorization, and I see that, this is installed by the student. I can select this, and I say I want to block this. I want to delete this. I want to delete. Oh, how do I do this? Can't tap on it. Apps. This. I'm not able to tap on it for some reason. Okay, but the idea is you can add apps to that to remove the app from the iPad, right? Maybe you need to restart the app, but never mind. Let me just go on to the next one. Hiding restricted apps. So instead of deleting it, yeah. So just now the interface is not correct. So let's say I want to hide IB's Pin. I can say I want to hide this particular app, and it will hide that app until I allow it, right? So you're not physically deleting it, but you're just hiding that app. Okay. Just make sure these commands are all sent out before we proceed. Okay, see your IB's Paint on the right side has now been hidden, right? So it's been hidden, right? So you can hide certain apps that you see installed so that they will not use it. The last part here is show selected apps. This can be useful if your child comes to you and say that, okay, daddy or mommy, I want to use the iPad for homework. But when you give them the iPad, they may not be doing homework, they may be playing other things. So if you want to make sure that they are focused, you say, okay, you want to use this iPad for homework, then tell me which are the apps you require. So let's say, they only want, I'm not getting, okay. So let's say they only want to have a couple of apps for use. Let's say Clip Studio and Good Notes. As I said, select these two, right? For an hour. So what may happen then is all the other apps that is on the iPad will then be hidden, and they only have two apps to do for the homework, right? So you can see on this page on the iPad side, once the command goes through, all the apps will be hidden except for Clip Studio and Good Notes, right? So the other things is all hidden from usage. So they can only launch, right? Settings you can't really hide because that's used for joining to the Wi-Fi and so forth. And the Mosyle School app is the MDM agent. So that's always available there, right? But in this case, only the Clip Studio and Good Notes is available for the student to use until I then disable this, right? Then all the other apps will then reappear, right? So it can be useful if you want the child to only be using a number of apps and not all the apps. You can use this to control what is restricted and what is not restricted, right? So once the command goes through, you see all the apps on the iPad that subsequently is reappearing, right? Next one now is log in one app. this is similar to the timeout, right? So timeout, you actually log them into a specific non-discrete app that they cannot do anything. But if they say they want to use a particular app for an activity, then you can say, I will select Clip Studio and give it a timing for how long, and the app will launch, and they will be locked into Clip Studio, and they will not be able to exit from Clip Studio, right? Uh, until you disable this again, then they can exit from Clip Studio and go into other apps, right? So this is meant for them to focus on a particular app at one time. You can use this log into one app, right? For some reason, I'm not seeing all the apps. So, normally you'll see all the apps that is on the iPad. So I've got a lot of apps on the iPad. You can choose from that. Perhaps I need to log out and log back in a bit later to get that update, right? But typically, you will see all the apps that is installed on the iPad. For some reason, I'm only able to see these 4 apps right now, even though I'm trying to refresh it. Okay, but never mind. Is for the purpose of the demo, we're still okay, right? The next one down I want to share is on the web filter. So just I mentioned that if there's no control, the student is able to go to any website. So let's say, let me try. Let's go to Instagram.com. Right, so let's say without any control, they can go to Instagram.com. So let's say I want to prevent the child from going to Instagram.com. I just add this into the block list. So Instagram.com is blocked, and slide across to say apply. Right. So just check that it's gone out. All right, so it's gone out. So let me just close this on the iPad side. So on the iPad side, if I try to go to Instagram.com again, right, you get a message to say that you cannot go to Instagram.com because it is restricted, right? Because on the parent side, I've already put in a link that says that block Instagram.com. So you can add, additional websites if you want to, more than one. But you probably shouldn't be adding, hundreds and hundreds. Just use this for specific cases where you work with the student and say you don't go to this website, and if they're responsible and they're quiet, they will not go there. But if they find that they refuse to listen and they keep going to that website, then you can use this as a resort to block them from actually going to the website, right? So web filter is able to do this quite well, right? Next one down is check on the apps. Okay. So um, So again, this is where you can see the list of all the apps that's installed. So for some reason, I'm only able to see these 4 apps, but you should be getting the full list of all the apps. During, when it's working normally, we should be able to see, oh, wrong app. You should be able to see all of the apps that's installed on the iPad. Right. So these are all the apps that has been exposed. Typically, we should be able to see everything. So maybe it needs to update a bit later. All right. So here is where you can see the apps that's installed. And if you choose to, you can also try to uh, uh, take an action on that. Right. The second last one here is to remove passcode. So there's just one big button. So if I set a passcode on the iPad, right, I won't do it, but yeah, actually I've disabled it already. I think I don't see the passcode but down here, but let's say you have a passcode that is been set on the device. You can simply just use this to say clear the passcode, and then you clear that, then you can set a new passcode. The last one is analytics. That is actually not, you can read through that. That's not, and there's no actionable items here for you to do anything, right? It's just some of the information, right? So that's kind of all I wanted to share So um, if you're keeping up with what I was sharing, you see that the parental screen guide app is able to allow you to control and manage the students remotely, and allow you to have certain controls over it, even if you're not physically with the child, right? It's useful, I guess, for parents and for both parents in the family, or even if you want to have other guardians, grandparents involved, or even a helper, you can also use this to say add additional members into the family. Then all of you can then see the child device and take control and manage the device jointly, together as co-guardians, right? So that's all I wanted to share. Um, I'm happy to take any questions if parents have any questions. Um, Let me just turn this off. So if you have any questions, then you can post it in the chat.